Hi, Ghosties. I'm Macy.
And I'm Natalie.
And it's Thursday, so that means we have a Listener Stories episode.
Yeehaw.
I don't have too much to say today, so our tea is Celestial Seasonings Honey Vanilla Chamomile.
Yep. Smells interesting.
We put a little honey in it. I needed a caffeine-free because I need sleep tonight, so
Yep.
let's go.
That's honey.
That was soothing for my soul.
Yeah.
Like the warm honey flavor just felt really good on my throat. My allergies.
Yeah. I don't know how I feel. It's not bad.
We haven't had a chamomile tea yet. So I was interested to see how you would fare with this one.
What's the difference?
Chamomile is it's not black tea.
I think the reason I'm questioning it is because it kind of tastes like the Theraflu honey.
Ah, yeah. Chamomile is an herb that belongs to the daisy or sunflower plant family.
I think that's what it is, though, is there's like the Theraflu medicine that's honey flavored. Supposed to be honey flavored. I think that's what that's
so it's like
reminding me
bringing
of.
you back to those traumatizing times.
Being sick. Yeah. We talked for too long, so if it was hotter, I think I'd like it. Now it's just kind of like warmish.
Yeah.
So
It's like almost cool.
yeah, not bad though.
What would you rank it?
A 3.
A 3?
A 3 or 3.5. I don't know. I'm just really getting medicine now that I said it. Like the aftertaste is really hitting me.
That's unfortunate. Well, I like it. That's a solid 5, maybe.
You
Yeah,
think?
5. Yeah, it's a good average middle road relaxing tea.
Not exciting, but not bad.
So, our first story comes from Rachel in the comments. She said, I went to see a medium a couple of years after my granddad passed away. I wasn't expecting much. She didn't tell me much that resonated with me, and I was very skeptic that she actually knew anything. But before I left, she asked me to go home and tell my dad, my granddad's son, that my granddad said, quote, "Thank you for putting it in my pocket," which didn't mean anything to me. But when I went home and told my dad exactly that, he went fully white, sat down, and told me that the day of my granddad's funeral, he put his war medal in his jacket pocket. Nobody else knew this apart from my dad. Starting off strong.
Oh, wow. That's one of those things that makes me 100% believe that people actually can contact people from beyond.
Yes, it's stories like that also affirm that to me too.
I think if I was to go see a medium, which I still want to, or like a psychic, and I know you're still kind of on the fence.
For me, one, I don't want to give money to someone who is possibly swindling me, because there are a lot of fakers out there who are just really good at like cold reading and figuring it out. And I'm a very kind of, my feelings are right outside, right at the front of my face.
Yeah.
And so they would get me, and I know they could. So one, I'm afraid to do that. And two, what if they are reaching out there into the spiritual realm and they get something dark? I've already told you that I have like this darkness that I've experienced in the past.
Yes.
And I don't want someone to reach out and contact or get in touch with that darkness.
Wake it up.
Yeah. So that's why I'm like, probably not for me.
I don't know. I just feel like I wouldn't be too scared because, well, one, if they're getting me, they're getting me. I'm not giving them $100,000. I don't have $100,000 to give someone. If I'm paying them $30, hey, I lost $30 that day. That's, sucks, but I can handle that if they're just like tricking me.
And either way, it's like a fun little experience.
It's fun. I don't know. I feel like I could just walk away even if they were, reaching out to the darkness. I'd be like, hey, I'm not claiming any of this. I'm leaving this at the door. I'm shutting the door. I'm closing it off. I'm not going to accept anything dark. And I think I would be fine.
See, when you're contacting, the same reason I won't ever use a Ouija board is because when you're trying to contact something like this, you're opening the door. That door has been opened when you're opening yourself up to it. And you have to open yourself up to a psychic or a medium, because they're not going to be able to do much if you're completely closed off. Like you're, so you're opening the door already.
I don't know.
That's
I might just be in this mood right now where I feel kind of just like big and tough. But I really feel like if I don't want to be followed by something, which this is not an invitation. This is not a haha, try me. I just feel like I'll be like, no, I don't accept it. And then I'll
like you did the other day where you just cover your face and go to sleep.
I didn't see it. It was a dream.
Okay.
Yeah.
I don't know.
I think you're more scared. And so if you walked away from a psychic or a medium or something, if you finally caved in and then you left that day and you heard a twig snap outside your window, I think you'd be like, oh, it followed me.
It's possible.
And I would just be like,
I don't know necessarily that I'm scared. I don't want to open up that possibility.
Yeah.
Now, if a medium approached me and said, hey, I have a message for you, maybe I'd be like, What are you talking about? Maybe then I would, maybe not open up myself fully, but see what they have to say.
Yeah.
But I don't think I'd go seeking it out.
I'd want to go to a psychic just for like a reading. I would personally, but nobody ever goes with me. Or will go with me.
Mom would.
You think so?
Oh yeah. We walked past a spiritual shop the other day, and they had tarot readings and stuff. She was like, "Let's go."
I was there.
You were there.
She didn't say that to me.
She did. She said it out loud. I don't think you were paying attention. And I was like, "Keep walking."
Deborah, let's go. I know you're watching. Me and Mom are gonna go on a little adventure. I'll let y'all know.
I'll just pray for y'all.
Wow. Because there's a psychic shop in town.
There are a couple.
I've seen it. I think it's like a little small building.
Yeah. There are a couple.
And that one's been there for years, so I might believe her. I'm gonna go.
Let me know. Let all of us know if a darkness follows you home.
Oh my God.
But thank you so much to Rachel, because that story was beautiful.
That is beautiful.
That has stuck with me. I've been thinking about that. We got this like on our mediums episode a while back, and I've been thinking about it for a long time.
And I love that for the dad, knowing that it didn't go unnoticed. That he did it and it was felt, and he was
that
like,
his dad said thank you.
Yes, it's
beautiful.
That's really sweet.
Our next story comes from Jennifer. This was a comment on our Titanic video. She says, "When the Titanic exhibit was in the Georgia Aquarium, my husband, sister, mother, and I were excited to go see it. We all were a bit curious about the Titanic growing up and thought it would be interesting to visit. My mother and sister were visiting, so we thought that would be a great time to go. Just like a little family outing.
Mm-hmm.
They're coming to town. Now, my family has always been a bit sensitive, but this day was weird. When we arrived, it felt very dark and heavy, which we expected, but there was a spot at the beginning where they had a plaque on the wall with a rope barrier. And now that I'm looking back at that, it's kind of weird to have a barrier for a plaque. We all decided we were going to read it. It was nothing but an explanation of the Titanic exhibit. There were pictures of the Titanic and people who were part of the tragedy around it. As we were reading, I felt like I was on a boat. I've been on many and I love it, so I knew what that felt like. I lean in towards my husband to tell him, but before I could get my words out, he says, 'Am I crazy? I feel like I'm on a boat.' I immediately turn and loudly whispered to him that I was just going to say that I felt like I was on a boat. My sister, who was next to me, heard and said, 'No effing way.' I was just about to say the same thing. My mother, who suddenly realized the commotion, asked us what we were talking about. We tell her, and her face changed. She said she felt the same thing and thought she was imagining it. All four.
That's cool? Question mark? Crazy? I don't know.
Now, if it was just me, I'd chalk it up to my imagination getting a bit out of control. We've all been there.
Mm-hmm.
But for all of us to say we experienced the same thing at the same time, now I am aware that lighting can play tricks on you. That was the most sensible thing my mind could wrap itself around.
Mm-hmm.
But it was a shared experience, and for the first time, I didn't feel like a crazy person.
That's cool, but at the same time, makes me feel so uneasy for some reason.
Weird.
I don't know. Would you want to continue through the exhibit?
Oh, yeah. But to have that at the very start, that's crazy.
That would make me
wild.
feel like if I walked in, like, stuff was about to get real.
Yeah.
It was about to get spooky.
Well, she went on to say that some of the items that were on display did have a little energy to them, but not all of them. But she could definitely sense something. So our next story comes from Stirring the Cauldron on YouTube. So I grew up and now live in rural North Carolina. My main pastime as a child was roaming the woods, sometimes by myself and sometimes with my siblings. I'm also very sensitive to energies and have seen ghosts since I can remember. I can confirm that you don't respond when you hear something in the woods, and you do not look out your window at night. I think this may have been our mountain video.
The comments keep coming.
I know, man.
Appalachia, I don't know. You know what we're talking about either way.
This is a conundrum. I remember at least one time, although I have a vague memory of more, that my siblings and I were in the woods together, building a little ramshackle hut to play in out of spare branches, pieces of wood, and some old metal roof pieces. It was mostly my brother building it, and my sister and I kept running around to find more materials, and I was clearing the ground around the hut. At some point, the three of us heard our mom call for us. We weren't so far into the woods that the house was out of sight, but we were deep enough in that we had to climb over brambles and hold branches for each other to get out without injury. We ran up to the house, but our mom wasn't on the back deck like we thought. Confused, we all ran inside. She'd sounded really panicked, like something was wrong and needed us to come back immediately. That's why they ran home. When we did, though, we found her in her living room playing Farmville, just as confused as we were. I love the Farmville reference.
I do too, because it feels like it's my childhood. Mom used to love Farmville.
She said she hadn't called for us at all, and said we'd probably just heard somebody else down the road and thought it was her. Personally, I was a little spooked still, but my siblings shrugged it off, and we returned to our task. About 15 minutes later, when we were back working on the hut, we heard it again. It was absolutely our mom's voice, not a neighbor, and she even yelled our names.
Oh no.
She sounded terrified, and again, we took off running and scrambled over the brambles and branches back to the house. Again, the deck was empty, and again, our mom was chilling in her room. Needless to say, we didn't go back out there for the rest of the day.
The day? I thought we were going to say the rest of your life.
I mean, they lived there. They're kids.
Oh my God.
Called their names. Called them by name.
And sounding panicked to make sure you come.
Yeah.
That's sick. Why though?
That was what I was going to ask. Like, why are they calling them back home?
Mm-hmm.
Were they protecting them? Or were they luring them to something and they just didn't happen to, go to where they wanted them to be?
No, because I feel like if they were luring them somewhere, it wouldn't be straight back home. It would be out in the woods and make the kids think like, oh, mom's lost, mom's hurt. It's back home. So to me, it feels like maybe they were in a spot that they should not have been. I don't know if it's protecting or if it's like,
that's
you're
my space.
In my spot. Get out.
Like more of a warning?
Not a warning so much as like just trying to just like, get away. You're touching my things.
They were calling from somewhere deeper in the woods and the kids just assumed, that's mom, she's home, we'll go home.
Either way, it's all sick. Whenever we read anything about mimics or being in the woods or anything, I am just envisioning where we lived.
Me too. The whole time she was talking about the branches and the brambles and putting together all the sticks together, I was like, oh yeah, that's home.
We're right there. Yeah, I can see it and it just feels so real to me.
Well, thank you so much for sharing that story. That is literally frightening.
I love it. I want to hear more stories like that.
Me too.
You know which one has actually stuck with me that I didn't think was going to? The backflipping one.
I knew it.
Because at first I was like,
I know, you kind of giggled. But I'm
when
like, dude, that's terrifying.
When I really think about it, it gets to me.
Yes.
It really does.
The way that he was just out there in not dressed for the weather.
Shorts on. Oh, yeah.
Screaming with, wasn't that the one with like the woman's voice coming from the man's mouth?
Oh, that's going to make me throw up. Okay, yeah, that's the one.
We'll be done.
Oh, God.
Go back in. I think that was our Mimics episode. So that was a really good one. Our next story comes from Rebecca, also the comments. They say, sorry, this is kind of long, but I wanted to share my Mimic story somewhere.
Hello.
Mimic. I came home late from work one night. I called my husband to tell him I'd be late. And when I pulled into my parking spot at home, he called me and asked, where did you go? Of course, I was super confused, but when I got upstairs, he told me he heard me come home, walk up the stairs, and down the hallway. He heard my voice say, I'm home. And before my footsteps got to the bedroom, he heard me say, I'll be right back. The footsteps retreated back down the hall and stopped. He was so convinced I was home that he got up to look for me. That's when he called me. I didn't believe him at first, but he was very shaken up and he doesn't joke about stuff like this. I'm scared. Now we've moved to a new place and had a baby. I was in the bedroom putting our baby down for a nap. We were being completely quiet, but he ran into the room looking panicked and said, what's wrong? He said he heard me shouting for him. I hadn't said a single word. Just last night, I heard the sound of his keys jingling in the kitchen. He was still at work. I'm oddly relieved to hear all these stories because I don't really talk about mine, and I'm glad to know so many others relate.
I'm not glad to know. Oh my God. Oh my, okay.
I'd like to say that people talk about Natalie reacting and how I'm just like, oh, more chill. It's because I've read these before. If you saw me at home, curled up, like near tears, some of these stories, shutting my computer for the night because I literally can't go on, I am reserved because I have been here already. Natalie has not.
I have thoughts. I have a lot of thoughts. First one, whenever she's like, I'll be right back. Was it because she was pulling into the driveway? And the thing was like,
same thing.
And the thing was like, oh wait,
I don't have time.
Yeah. It's like, oh, just kidding. I'll be right back. Oh my God. And then for it to call his name in another house, like something's attached to them.
Him, yeah.
Or him. Or maybe it's attached to them or it was him, but then it's just starting to pick up on his stuff too because it can't get to him. Now it's trying to get to her.
I hope not. Rebecca, are you okay?
Sorry, Rebecca. I feel sick. I really don't like these because
a good one.
I put
you
myself.
You just said I love these.
No, I love them because I like to be scared in the moment, but then I start really thinking about it. And most of the time when Ryan gets home, I get up and say like hello, or at least like turn around and say like hi.
That's one thing when we're doing this, we're like talking about it and kind of amping ourselves up more and getting ourselves more scared. When I'm at home and just like watching other YouTubers tell these stories or things like this, I'm able to say, wow, that was freaky, and turn my attention elsewhere and just forget about it. Here, I'm like, let's expand upon this.
What could they want?
What do we think?
What does it mean?
What are its motivations?
I just don't even know.
I knew that one would get you too.
I'm real scared.
Our next one comes from Janet. This was an email. Hello, my name is Janet. I used to live in Uvalde, Texas, where I was born. Our house was passed down for generations, and my great-great-grandfather was a medicine man that used to do his work on the land. I was 10 when I had my first encounter. I was sleeping in a rocking chair inside my mom's room when I heard something marching down the hall. I looked back and saw a soldier marching down the hallway, then disappeared. He had no eyes. My other encounter was when I was 12 years old.
That's it? That's all we know about the soldier?
That's what we know about the soldier.
Oh my God. Okay.
My other encounter was when I was 12 years old. It was a wonderful day and I was so happy to sleep after a long day at school. I woke up to a not so good feeling. I sat up to see what was happening and I saw a tall black figure outside mine and my sister's window. I called for my grandma who was in her room, but when she looked outside the window, there was nothing there. She went outside just to make sure, and still there was nothing. I went to sleep in the room with her that night. The dark black figure was bending down, and he also had no eyes and a very wide, creepy smile. We got the house blessed after this.
Why do none of them have eyes?
That scares me. Where are their eyes?
I don't know if it's scarier that if they were looking at you or if that...
No eyes and a creepy smile.
But would it be scarier if there were eyes looking directly at you?
Depends on what it looks like. If it looks like just dark blank sockets, then I don't know. But if it's just darkness here, maybe.
Oh, I don't know. I wasn't thinking about actual sockets. I was thinking more of like in a drawn way where it's just flat, two-dimensional.
Yeah.
Oh, that adds an extra layer.
That's what I envisioned, was just like empty dark holes.
I don't know. Okay. I'm sick.
This one comes from Swirlie Bird from the comments. I like your name, Swirlie Bird. So I work in a hospital, and of course I would assume it's haunted, especially being a Catholic hospital. I've worked in many places that were haunted. A grooming salon, the land was haunted. So of course the section of the chain store I worked in that had the salon was haunted. I worked at a vet hospital, and one was haunted. Not by animals, surprisingly enough.
Aww.
But the hospital is one place that bothers me only because of my specific fear. I'm the type of person that loves to stay up late and loves basements and feel more at home in basements and tunnels. That is interesting. So, of course, I work the graveyard shift and in the lower level of the hospital. So that's like the perfect place for this person.
It's funny, we just talked about basements and tunnels and things, and I was like, absolutely not.
And this
person's like, I
yes.
feel at home.
Mm-hmm. That area doesn't bother me at all. It looks like any part of the hospital. I went into the tunnel system of the hospital last week, and of course, it sounds as scary as it looks, but I had no issue. The one place I'm deathly scared of, the pediatric surgical area. Apparently, it's the oldest part of the hospital and wasn't always the peds area. I'm not the only person frightened of that area, and I'm not afraid to admit it. After a certain time of night, I refused to go there. Initially, I was never afraid of the area. There is a sky bridge attaching it to the rest of the hospital. I used to go there to deliver items in the middle of the night, all the time. I'd be alone and it never bothered me, except one night. It was the same as any other, nothing different. While putting things away, I all of a sudden felt something standing behind me. This is where I'll let you know my biggest fear is little kid ghosts. So of course the pediatric surgical unit would be the one place I'd be afraid of. Not only did I feel like something was right behind me, but I could feel the whole 4 Fs start to kick in. I of course froze. It was a huge sense of dread. I didn't necessarily feel like I was going to get attacked, but I wasn't welcomed for sure. I just felt like I wasn't wanted. I could feel its eyes on my neck. The problem is I had my back to the only way out of the department. So I had to turn around to leave. I'm walking backwards. I was so scared to turn around and be face to face with a little girl ghost. That scares me even more than a regular kid ghost. I took a deep breath, turned around, and bolted out of there. After that, I refused to go there past a certain time and made other people go for me. The thing is, a lot of people are afraid to go there as well. One coworker was attacked on the sky bridge by something unseen. When he came back to the department, he has scratches on his arm. 2 girls went together. One girl was on her last day, and while they were there, they heard a ball being bounced across the waiting room and kids walking around. During that time of night, there are no patients there, so they were alone. When they came back to the department, I could tell something happened. I'm proud to say that I managed being up there for 30 minutes a few weeks back, putting things away with no issue. But I always tell people when I'm headed out and to call for me if I don't return after a certain time.
I'm not going alone.
Just the sense of dread.
Why? If it's actually a kid, why?
Yeah, that feels more like something disguising itself. If you're that, well, maybe this is this person's just own personal fear, and that would explain it. But for it to be attacking people?
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. It's like, why would a kid be attacking, so aggressive? So why would it have such an energy about it that it's so negative?
Stories of people not necessarily experiencing something outright, but getting those sense of danger from something unseen Those really get to me because I've
too.
been there.
My eyes are watering. Yeah, me too.
And I believe every single story told like that too.
Me too.
If you come to me and say something was off, I'm like, yep, not going there because I believe you.
Yeah, I'm freaked out.
Well, this next one is also another mimic story. So this one comes from B. My story takes place way down in Florida, but very similar to the ones read here. This one was the Appalachia. I was home with just my pup at the time, R.I.P. my Rexy boy, who was super protective as he was a Chihuahua Jack Russell mix.
Oh my God. Does he look like Petey?
It was 11 p.m. We were home alone, and I was waiting for my sister-in-law to stop by. All of a sudden, Rex hops from my bed and starts growling towards the front door. And before I could even try to calm him, I hear someone or something banging on the front door. And my sister-in-law yelling my name, telling me to hurry up and open the door. Even though I was sure it was her, I paused and looked out the small window on the door to find that there was no one there. I scooped Rex up, ran to my mom, and called my sister-in-law, who tells me she's still at work. Still get goosebumps telling this story years later. New listener here to stay spooky, and stay safe. I'm glad they didn't open the door.
What happens if you open the door?
Nothing good.
I was going to say someone tell us, but I'm sure there's no stories where people actually open the door because they're not going to tell us. Something bad happened.
They're always like in a panic, in a hurry, like open the door,
it's like,
hurry, help me, open the door.
Doesn't want to give you time to think about it.
Thank goodness Rex was there.
I love that Life 360 is a thing because I check whenever Ryan's on his way home. Because if he was banging on the door, say he went to the store and he was grabbing groceries and coming home from work and he was like banging on the door like, hey, my hands are full, come on. I'm ripping the door open fast. Horrifying.
Very horrifying.
How do you go on with life after that?
I don't know. And it kind of reminded me of the video you sent me that one time of the girl who was like, Sarah, open the door. It's your mother.
Yeah.
And she was like holding her bedroom door closed. Yeah. Okay, so our next story comes from Katlyn. Hey there, stay-at-home mom here. While the kids are at school during the day, I have your podcast on in the background. I recently discovered you guys and enjoy your stories. Thank you for letting us be a part of your day. I've had many encounters over the years, especially as a kid, but most of them took place at my grandparents' house in the early 2000s. I'm 32 now, and some of the events that happened at my grandparents' house still haunt me to this day. One main story that sticks out to me happened during Christmas time. I was visiting my nanny and papa, my mom's parents, and we had decorated the house for Christmas and put up Christmas lights on the outside. Once we were done, we all went outside to look at the house at night. We walked about 25 feet into the front yard, stopped, and turned to see the lights. We scanned across the house from one end to the other. But at the middle point, we saw two bluish-gray smoky figures standing in my grandparents' bedroom window, looking out back at us. They looked to be like two young girls around 10 and 8 years old, standing with their arms around each other. We could make out braids and bonnets on their heads. Mind you, there was no one in the house. My grandparents turned me around as I was younger, and they didn't want it to scare me. The two figures vanished a few seconds later, but after my papa went looking around the house, there was a picture that had fallen off the wall, shattered where the two ghostly figures had been seen.
So they all saw it happen.
The whole family. It was a picture of my grandparents' kids when they were younger. There have been many eerie things that have taken place in that room, from giggling, doors opening and shutting, to the TV and lights flickering on and off. It was always something mischievous, like a prank a little kid would make. All of those things made me the believer I am today. Thanks, Katlyn.
Instantly, I need to know all the history of that house. I need to know when it was built, who built it, who lived there, who are these kids.
It shattered the picture of the children when they were children.
Oh no.
Is that like a playful little, hey, we're kids? Or is that a, we don't like kids?
We hate you. I don't know, but they're kids. But when you say like braids and bonnets, I'm thinking like the white bonnets and like the big dresses, like from a long time ago. Yeah. Is that what you're envisioning too?
Yeah, I was picturing like 1700s.
Yeah.
I need to know the history of this house.
Give us your address. Oh my God. Someone did send us their address and said, I don't know the history of my home, but this is what's happened.
Really?
Look it up. Yeah, I think I sent it to you.
Oh, I don't remember that.
I'll go and find
it and send it to me. Because I will call their local library. I will look through the appraisal district. I will find everything that I can. Yeah. That's really creepy. The fact that the entire family's seen it. The grandparents turned her around. Like,
they were like, ooh.
It's a little spooky. Yeah, that's wild. That's really wild. But thank you so much for sending that in. This next one comes from Krista. I heard you mention in a podcast that you wanted dream submissions. I have 3. The first is cute, the second is odd, and the third terrified me.
I'm ready.
I love dreams. Setup. Even if they're not like spooky, ghostly dreams. I just love dreams. I love to think about people's dreams and how they relate to their lives and things like that. You know,
some people say like the worst thing you can do is walk up to your friends and be like, I got to tell you about this dream I had. I, for one, love to hear about dreams.
I want to know everything.
I do, because I have some weird ones, just like random that make no sense.
And those are my favorite. I'd love to hear the strange things.
Because it's funny.
Like, yeah. Background to the first. We lived nearly 75 miles from the Mississippi River. There is a highway about 3 miles away from where I grew up. When I was in high school, I had gotten up and was getting ready for school. My mom said, I had such an odd dream last night. I dreamed the Mississippi River had cut a new path through the highway. After we talked, she left to get ready for work. A few minutes later, I saw my dad, and he said he had such an odd dream last night. I dreamed I was driving the boat down the highway. I stopped and stared at him. I asked, have you told Mom about your dream? He said, no. I said, you should go tell her. He looked at me in a peculiar way, but went down the hallway to see her. A few minutes later, they were both laughing. They even compliment each other in their dreams.
What?
They have such a connection with their minds that they had this, like, very similar dreams.
Yeah.
He was, like, in a boat while she was driving down the highway in the river.
That's actually really cute. I like that they're connected even when they sleep.
The second dream. I dreamed I was at a wedding reception. The parking lot was on a steep incline. There was an entrance to the venue at the bottom of this parking lot. There was a breezeway under the venue with stone benches. Many guests were gathered there. A large black sedan, one like you would see in a 1970s movie, drove by and people inside started shooting at the guests. The car sped by, turned around, came back, and shot again. We were all trying to run away. I was hit in the shoulder. I was jolted awake by the impact of the bullet and felt the burning sensation in the center of my right shoulder blade. I was so freaked out, I checked myself to be sure I was okay. It was frightening, and I can still remember how real it felt. A few years later, my brother woke up and was very animated, describing a dream he had just had. He had been shot in the right shoulder blade. He felt it and was jolted awake. I said, you're never going to believe this, and told him of my dream. We both had the exact same experience, feeling the sensation of being shot.
I would never feel safe again.
Feeling and hearing things in your dream and then waking up and still feeling and hearing them is one of the freakiest things in the world.
That depends though, because sometimes I'll have a dream that I can't breathe and oh my gosh, like something's happening, I'm choking, and then I'll wake up and I have like a pillow over my face that I'm like holding. So I'm okay, I feel that sensation because I was doing it to
but there's
myself.
a reason for that. They shouldn't feel like they've been shot in their shoulder blade.
What if they have a cat and the cat's just like, you know?
Yes,
see it?
I guess.
No, but yeah, no, I'm just trying to make myself feel better. That is insane, and I don't know what that means.
I had a dream one time where like an evil entity screamed at me, and I woke up and could still hear the scream.
You told us that.
I did?
Mm-hmm.
I did.
Episode number 2.
That's the first thing that I thought of, and I was just like, yeah, that's frightening. The third dream. Background. I had become quite interested in Paranormal State on TLC in the early 2000s.
TLC.
Man, they are something else.
Love TLC.
Same. I dreamed I walked by an old creepy house twice daily. It was a massive gray wooden home with a turret. It had never been painted. The trees were large and leafless. The whole scene was very gray. I could occasionally see a figure in the windows. I knew there were haunting stories associated with this house. Like just knowing in your dream.
Mm-hmm.
One evening I was walking by this house. Somehow I ended up at the house. Then I was grabbed. I never saw what grabbed me, but it was strong and the nails were sharp. I was awakened as I was screaming, quote, in the name of Jesus Christ, flee from me, Satan. I couldn't go back to sleep, and I limited watching ghost shows to before noon. I don't listen to your show before I go to sleep either. I've enjoyed listening to your stories and learning about things I never knew.
I'm sorry.
That is so scary.
That feels way too real.
Way too real. To be screaming that out.
I'm speechless.
At least she protected herself.
Yeah.
She knew even in her sleep that like, hey, get back.
This feels real. Like that feels like it was actually something in her life or something, like it was getting her.
A little bit, yeah. That's the impression I got too. But I mean, she said that she just doesn't watch spooky things after noon.
That's a good plan. A lot of people though have commented that they watch us to go to sleep, and I'm like,
I know.
That's interesting.
I know. I mean, I can't. Sometimes I listen to true crime to fall asleep.
I do too.
So it's kind of like, okay.
I do too, but
I get it.
If I had a true crime dream where I got, exterminated, in the dream, that wouldn't be as scary to me as an entity.
Something spiritual?
Yes. Because I think that in that dream, it's like you can't make sense of it.
But
because
if a person's just
trying to
can't get to you in your dreams, but a spirit can.
No.
Moving on here, this is another email from Summer. Hi, my name is Summer, and my friend and I had an experience with the Hat Man when we were about 16.
The Hat Man.
We're 20 now. Yes.
Oh, wow.
The way you said it was like, the hash slinging slasher.
That's what I was thinking. I just watched that episode the other day. It's fresh in my brain.
It was around Halloween when myself and my best friend were home alone. We were staying at my dad's house, which has a decent amount of trees surrounding the yard. The sun was almost completely gone when we needed to let my dog outside. It's always the dog, man.
Recently, Piper's new thing is there is a lizard or like a gecko that lives or hangs out on the roof of my porch or the ceiling of my porch. She's convinced she can get it. She can't. So every night she goes out there and I have to physically go out into the yard and make her go to the bathroom, because if not, she stands on my porch and just tries to climb the wall and get the lizard.
Sometimes Jake will stay up super late, like several nights in a row, like if he's playing a new video game or something. So my dogs will get used to, before he goes to bed at like 1, 2 a.m., he'll let them out before he goes to bed and then come back inside and go to bed. Well, they'll get into the habit where like, oh, well, 3 nights in a row, I guess potty time's 2 a.m. And he doesn't wake up for anything. So it's like 2 a.m., 3 a.m. sometimes in the middle of the night that I'm being barked at, but threatening me to take them outside.
I would feel safe with your big dogs because they could protect you.
Maybe so. We were standing on the porch when in sync we stopped talking and started to take steps backward toward the house. Suddenly, they both did. There was what looked like the shadow of an unhumanly tall cowboy slowly walking towards us. My dog started running into the house like she had seen it too. And without a word, my friend, dog, and I ran inside, locked the door, and ran into my bedroom closet. As we stood in my closet trying to decide if we were being dramatic or not, we heard heavy boot-like footsteps on the wooden stairs. My dad has a split-level home, so there are only about 7 stairs until you are to my room. This made it easier to hear every crack on the stairs. Steps were being drawn out, almost as if whatever was walking up the stairs was taunting us. We both started crying, and I frantically called my dad and asked him if he was home in hopes it could have been him. He told me that he was turning down our street and hung up. The garage door opened a few seconds later and the footsteps just stopped, completely disappeared. They didn't go back down or come up, they just vanished. We stayed in my room and tried to go through all of the possibilities as to what that logically could have been. We could not think of anything. Then way later that night, we decided we wanted to get a late night snack. I would guess it was around 2 a.m., but I don't completely remember. We turned from the stairs into the kitchen and I turned on the lights. We both froze. Across from us in the kitchen was the same tall shadow outline of the cowboy. It didn't have eyes, but we could feel it staring at us. Looking at it made me feel like I was in a frozen-like trance. Like even if I wanted to run away, I was filled with so much fear that I couldn't. Then we watched as it picked up its left arm, so it was across its stomach, then slowly moved his arm from his stomach to the light switch and flipped off the lights. The light switch was on his left side, so the inside of his arm was facing us when he hit the lights. Like he had done it that way to drag it out. Both of us took off running back into my room, barricading the door, terrified to fall asleep. Neither of us knew that the Hat Man was an existing thing until almost a year later. I was scrolling on TikTok and a video appeared of a lady describing the exact figure we saw and said he was called the Hat Man. She said he is usually a sleep paralysis demon. I've looked him up randomly throughout the year and I've only ever seen a few people who claim to have seen him while awake. For a few years after that, every time it was only us at my dad's, we had some unexplainable things happen. We haven't actually seen him since that night, but sometimes it feels like his energy is still there taunting us. P.S. While I was reading this back, my smoke alarm just randomly went off for a second.
So when I brought up the Hat Man, I didn't know.
Like the whole lore?
I didn't know that was a possibility. I thought it was just something that everyone was seeing in their sleep and being like, haha, the Hat Man.
Yeah. What does it want? Why was he slowly taunting them, coming after them, turning off the lights on them? Slowly drawn out, just like moving his hand slowly to switch the light switch off.
And the fact that there were 2 of them, you know it's not a dream. They were both there. They both saw it.
The
They were
dog
16.
saw it.
They weren't 8, 7.
For me, I don't know why. Maybe it's just the way that it was so slow and tauntingly and turned the light off right in front of them. That one really, really scared me. When I first read it, I was really freaked.
The light that's really scary. If that was my friend's house, we're sleeping at mine now. We're not going to that house.
Mom, can you come pick me up?
Can you come pick both of us up? And her dad. Can we all come to your house and sleep? Because I could never have children. Because if they call me and tell me that.
I saw a video the other day and it was like me to the monster in my kid's room when they tell me they're scared, but I'm scared too or something like that. And it was like the scram.
Yeah. Yeah, you sent us that. The Hat Man just got a lot scarier for me and I don't really want to talk about it anymore.
Okay, we'll move on. Oh. I have some more dream stories and they're more good. They're not as scary. They are from Brandi.
Brandi.
Brandi returns.
Someone commented like, yes, give us a full Brandi episode.
Yes. We want to hear more from Brandi. So she says, hey Macy, it's me again. Hope I'm not bothering you guys. Never. So I was going to originally write to you this time about my aunt's house, but I wanted you to hear a couple that are just interesting and maybe get you guys' opinions on it. I do want to hear about your aunt's house though. So if you ever get the time, send those in.
Yep.
So even as a small child, I've always believed in ghosts. My grandma lived in a very old farmhouse. I remember there was a vent at the bottom of the stairs. I would love to sit on the stairs to warm up during cold weather seasons, but I would always feel like something was at the top of the stairs watching me. Recently, I told my mother this, and to my surprise, she just stared at me and said she always felt like that when she was a teen, when she was doing the same thing, eating up by the vent. So my mom's room was up those stairs. She told me that she had a terrible dream that someone was hanging in her closet. So she told Mama, who told her that that was ridiculous. No one could have ever been hung in there because of how low the ceiling was. A little while later on, she goes to put her clothes away, and she's seen a pair of red eyes in the back of her closet. She was so freaked out that she hung a line in her room and started hanging her clothes off of it.
Nice.
Mom said when my grandma seen this, she yelled at my mom and made her put everything back in her closet. Now that I've heard this, I can't help but wonder if the same thing she had been seeing / feeling up there was what was staring down the stairs at me.
Why is it always the closets?
I swear.
I don't like that at all.
It really is. My grandma moved out of that old house. I don't think my grandpa ever really believed in ghosts, but their new house they moved into had something as well. So when I was a kid, my grandparents had these wall plug night lights that would only turn on when it got dark. It would be the middle of the day, and you would see those things come on. It was almost like someone was purposely putting their hand over it to trigger the sensor to turn it on.
I was going to say we had those, and if you put your hand over it.
I have a couple at my house right now. She also had a touch lamp that would randomly turn on by itself. My mom worked with the woman who sold them the house and jokingly asked her, "Did you sell my parents a haunted house?" And the lady's color drained out of her face and dead serious asked, "Why? What's happening?"
How dare you?
My mom was like, "Oh, nothing. Her touch lamps keep coming on." The lady was like, "When we were painting one of the rooms, someone tapped on my shoulder, and when I turned around, no one was there." Of course, my Ouija-loving aunt got her board out to talk to it. It said it was a little girl. We all know what that usually means.
Yeah, we do.
Now, I have had several dreams where people that are no longer here have shown up, and I dream about spending time with them. That's probably totally normal, but there have been 2 different times when I've had a dream and it's just a white void, or room, if you will. Since there has to be a floor because I'm standing on something, right? This is interesting to me, sad and kind of funny. Tell me what you guys think. My first experience with the white room was when I was in high school. So I was the choir theater kid. Not super popular or anything. I got along with most everyone though, and a lot of the kids who were in sports seen me as the smart kid. So that's how my friendship with this boy came to be. It was just him and his mom when they first moved here. They moved in across the street from us, and we became friends when we found out we were going into the same grade. 5th at this point in time when he moved here. Our friendship was mainly outside of school. We were not in the same crowd, and he would often come over after school to get help with math. He would always say, "Hey, smart girl, I need help." I tried to tell him that I wasn't that great at math myself. I only had a B. He was like, "Better than me, I have an F. Help me, smart girl." That's how we became friends. Later on in high school, he knew that I was very curious about different religions and what happens to us after this life. I had several books on several different religions, just searching and comparing, trying to see if any of them have things in common. So maybe this is why he chose to visit me. He knew I was open and I believed in something after. So during our junior year, he was friends with the upperclassmen, and they had invited him to a senior party. Unfortunately, that night after the party, he got in a car, they were drunk, with 2 other boys, and they crashed.
Oh no.
No one was wearing their seatbelts, and we lost 3 boys from our school that night. So sorry. After 6 years of living by him, just knowing there would never be another night where he would need the smart girl's help, I was devastated. I cried and cried. Me and my then boyfriend went to his viewing. I will never forget his poor mom wearing his Letterman jacket up by his casket. About to cry. A few days passed by, and I was still sad, of course, but when I fell asleep that night in my dream, there was a completely white room. I looked around. It looked endless, like a void, but there was a single bar stool, and there he sat smiling. I was like, "What are you doing?" I heard him say, "I need you to do something for me." I was like, "Okay." He smiled and said, "Tell Steven I'll be waiting for him." I said, "Okay, I will." He looked happy, and I woke up. Take note, this boy had a great sense of humor. He was always joking around. The thing is, I don't have a clue who Steven is. I automatically think he must be a relative. I go over to his mom's and just ask, "So did he have an uncle or any family named Steven?" She said no. Lucky for me, she didn't ask me why, because I'm not real sure what 17-year-old me would have said. So I go to school the next day and ask one of his jock friends if he was close to someone named Steven. What they told me was crazy. This boy told me I wouldn't call him a friend of his. This Stephen boy had been going around the other jocks saying that the upcoming weekend, he was going to go up to the cemetery and vandalize the gravestone. I knew in that moment I was definitely finding this boy and giving him his special message. I also told the guy that gave me the information about Stephen why I was looking for him. I think he was a little weirded out by me, but he was so invested in seeing me tell Stephen this news, he took me to the classroom this boy was in. So I find this guy and ask, "Are you Stephen?" He nodded and I say, "Okay, so Jay visited me the other night and he wanted me to tell you that he'll be waiting for you." This kid just went white as a sheet. The next week, the kid who took me to him said, "Hey, good job. You really freaked him out. He won't go anywhere near that cemetery now." He thought it was great, and I hope Jay knows I did what he asks of me. Hopefully he got one more laugh before moving on. I guess the smart girl helped him one last time after all.
Okay, so I was like smiling and giggling and then I got really sad again. That's hilarious. I love that so much. That's my type of person.
Yes.
That is 100% my type of person. Like, "I'll be waiting for you."
He's like, "Okay, tell Stephen."
He didn't even say anything like really like overtly threatening. Just tell Stephen I'm waiting. Love this person.
I like that he came to Brandi because he knew that the message would get to
Yeah,
Stephen because Brandi believed in it. Brandi knew.
That's actually really beautiful to be trusted in that way.
Oh, yeah.
Oh,
yeah.
wow. That is a great story.
I feel honored to have been told that story.
Me too. That's a really great story.
The second time I experienced the White Room was much later in life.
I'm sorry, I'm taking this seriously, but I'm imagining in Harry Potter, the train station,
like
and it's
where
all
everything's
white.
just white?
Yes.
That's interesting.
That's what I'm seeing when you're saying this.
Like it's just kind of undeveloped.
Because it's an endless white area. That's what I see. And
That
it's
is
crazy.
interesting. I wonder what it is and why it's just the White Room. Like if this is just like the meeting space for spirits. Like
I don't know. And it's the fact that she sees it like or has seen it more than once.
So this next experience happened after my now ex-husband's grandmother passed away. Me and her had very similar interests. I always got along with her well. We both loved Halloween, art, poetry, and music. She was an amazing artist. She lived alone, so we would check on her often and drop dinner off for her. I loved listening to her stories. She had the best stories. When she passed, we were all very sad. Again, I'm so sorry for your loss. Then one night, months later, there I was in that white void room again. Straight ahead was a kitchen island, and there she sat. She was glowing. She looked so happy. She was just chilling there, smiling, smoking her cigarette like she did so often in life. She asked me how things were going, and I sat down and talked to her just like old times. Then I realized something. She's not here anymore. I looked at her and said, "But how are you here? You're dead." She just looked at me, content, and smiled, and then I woke up. It is so weird. It felt so real and normal to be chatting with her. I just got full body chills.
Yeah.
Okay, sorry these were so long. I have a few others that are pretty significant about my aunt's house, some of the different places I have lived, and a couple doppelganger stories that still creep me out to think about.
Oh my God.
Thanks for the pod. I really like hearing other similar stories and your guys' opinions and thoughts on them. Even if it freaks Natalie out sometimes. You guys are the best. I'll send more soon. Brandi. Please send more, Brandi. These were so good.
So good. I loved that story.
I've been thinking about the Jay story ever since I first read this email.
That's a good one. That's like one of the best stories I've ever heard.
Yes, I agree. This is like a highlight moment for Ghosties.
Yeah.
For my life in general.
Yeah.
But yeah, thank you so much. Please send in everything.
Send as much as you've got.
Again, I will revisit your others. I will do an entire 2-hour-long episode dedicated to Brandi because these are so good.
They really are.
This next one comes from Tierra from email. Hi Ghosties, my name is Tierra and I've been subscribed for quite some time now. Thank you.
I recognize the name.
I lived in a haunted house and have seen and had things done around me that are almost unexplainable. Let's start off with a backstory. My great-grandpa used to do exorcisms back in the 70s and 80s. He had a small house in the backyard where this would take place. My grandmother would go in this exorcism house with friends to goof around until one night she went in with her sister and the door slammed shut behind her. Cabinets, drawers, etc. were rapidly opening and closing and plates flying. She passed out and woke up and saw black orbs flying around. But other than that, she won't tell me any other stories of what happened because it's so traumatic.
What?
Starting off strong.
Oh my God. Okay.
The whole family thinks because of this, we had a curse put on us. Fast forward to the early 2000s. I was about 5 years old and remember this story like the back of my hand. We moved into an apartment, me, my mom, and dad. Little did we know what was going to happen. Every other day, they would both take out the laundry to the laundromat in the complex. They'd go together because it was an unsafe area. They'd leave me home and lock the doors. Well, every time they'd leave, things would happen. I'd feel energies around me with dark auras. One night they left, and I cried and sat on the stair steps waiting by the front door. I held my Cookie Monster plush and kept looking behind me. The lights started flickering on and off, and a tall lady in white was at the top of the stairs watching me. She almost looked like the Grudge from my memory. She started slowly crawling down the steps towards me as I screamed, then started running towards me. As she got to the last 2 steps, my parents opened the door in panic, and she disappeared, and the lights went back to normal. Crawling down the stairs, running towards her. Her parents got in there just in time, 2 steps away.
What was going to happen? What was going to happen?
I don't even want to think about what would happen.
Oh my God. I'm sorry. I can't think of the words to describe the way that just like frightened me. So
I could see your whole body like convulsing as I tell the story.
I do like the newborn baby, like
the Murrow
shakes.
reflex.
Yes.
Yeah. One of the scariest stories I've ever heard in my entire life. A Grudge-looking lady crawling down the stairs at you.
And then getting up and running.
I'm sweating.
I can't
Like
think
I got
about
a little mustache sweat.
I can't think about it.
I know what I saw and felt, and it's been 18 years since.
I believe you.
My mom also had an experience in the apartment with me. I don't remember anything, but she swears I was possessed at 5 years old. As her story goes, she sent me to my room because I was having a meltdown, and as she shut my door, things happened. My toddler self grabbed my entire bed and threw it at the door and was screaming unworldly nonsense. Then I threw my bike, my toy box, everything, and tried getting out of my room. She sat in front of the door crying and had to call a family friend to come over because she was terrified I wasn't me.
What?
I don't know what I would do as a mother, but it's probably the same thing. Just shut the door and cry and
Don't call me.
Call someone.
Don't call me. Okay. You're waiting an hour for the next closest family member. It's not going to be me.
Yeah, Natalie lives like 5 minutes away, and our next person lives an hour away. Oh, good to know.
I'll park my car outside your house and wait, but I'm not coming in.
Okay. I mean, okay. That tracks. That's understandable. Whew, I'm so scared. Okay.
Me too.
After living in the apartment complex, we moved to a new house as the family was expecting a baby boy. This house was the worst experience I've had to go through. After that?
Okay.
I get choked up just thinking and talking about it. The neighborhood we lived in was nice, but all my friends experienced things. I believe it was old native land. Anyways, back to the story. This house was dark and always had some odd feeling per everyone that visited. Bed shaking, my name being called, etc. My brother was a newborn and his crib was in my parents' room. Every morning, or every time he'd cry, they'd turn the light on and grab him until something started hurting him. The mattress on the crib had strings to tie itself to the crib in each corner. Well, no matter how hard my parents triple knotted the mattress to the frame, it would come undone and mysteriously be wrapped around my baby brother's arms, feet, neck, etc., even tied in a bow, like something was trying to hurt him. It was every single night. One morning in 3rd grade, I woke up and sat on the couch, zoned out, waiting for my mom to take me to school. The TV was off and we had 2 sets of couches. As I zoned out into the off TV, I saw my reflection and the reflection of everything around me. The couch I was not sitting on had some kind of butt imprint. It was faux leather and there would always be imprints when people sat down or got up. I glanced away from the TV to look at the couch and there was definitely one deep imprint as if someone was sitting. I looked back at the TV and froze in fear. There was a younger woman dressed in an early 1900s dress staring at me, laughing. While I was frozen, my mom came out running in a towel asking, "Did you hear that?" I just stared at her and she said, "It was a painfully loud trumpet." She opened the door and there was nothing. It was 6 a.m. and still dark. I didn't hear anything, but to further research, if you ever hear a horn or anything screaming outside your door, do not open it. It's spirits letting themselves in. That's creepy. More happened in that house, like doors opening, my uncle being dragged from his bed, things disappearing, etc. Down the street was my childhood best friend, R.I.P. I was over for a sleepover, and she thought it would be funny to play Bloody Mary. We played, and nothing happened, so we went along with our night. I was in the restroom, and the door swung open and closed. Nobody was in the house. Everyone was outside. Later that night, we sat on the couch watching her dad play video games and chatting. It was 2 a.m. or so, and her 3-year-old sister started screaming bloody murder in the room and kept repeating, "Get the lady out of my room," and was pointing at the ceiling in a corner and wouldn't stop hyperventilating. After we calmed her down, she went to bed and ran out in the hallway screaming the same thing again. From the couch, we could see what was happening. She had a mark of a large hand grabbing her arm. If you hold your arm tight and the white marks from the blood circulation shows, and that's what we saw. After seeing that, her dad got up, and as soon as he got up, this baby got dragged backwards into the dark hallway. I went home at 4 a.m. and never slept over again. Fast forward to our next home. I'm 17 around the time. My dad tells us he was scared to go to his room, and let me tell you, this man is scared of nothing. He proceeded to tell us that the previous night, he woke up to a little girl at the end of his bed standing in his prayer spot. He asked what it wanted, and it disappeared. He put his flashlight on, and in his prayer spot was a thick goo of some kind that reeked of acid.
What?
Next month or so, we had a family friend come over, and she said she felt a dark presence. She went into my dad's room and dropped to her knees, screaming and praying rapidly, "In Jesus' name, leave this family alone," over and over. She was in tears and went around the house and told the demon to leave. She went in my room and told me this was the only safe place in the entire house. As she said that, my crystals that were blessed flew across the room along with my protection spell jar I created. She kept praying and things kept flying off my walls. As she left, it felt safe and calm. Next week, her sister-in-law got possessed and is still to this day possessed with high supervision somewhere unknown. Thank you for listening to my story. I have so many, but I believe this was long enough. Things are safe now, and I wish you and the viewers the best. Of course, I'm okay with you reading this on the pod. I'm a big fan and love watching your channel grow. Thank you so much.
Thanks. Thank you. Yeah. What?
I feel like I need a minute. I am in such shock. I've read this before, and I am still without words.
It just kept going.
I know, I kept thinking, wow, that's the worst thing I've ever heard.
Like, and then...
Wow, that's the worst thing I ever heard.
I'm horrified.
I'm very sorry that you had to experience that and your family has experienced that for so many years. That is so frightening. And the fact that they think that it all stemmed from her grandfather's exorcism room.
I believe it. I 100% believe it.
Like some kind of curse was latched onto their family.
Yeah, I don't know what to say.
Yeah, no, me neither.
What page are we on? I'm sick.
That's it.
That was it?
That was it.
Oh, thank God.
That was our last story. I forgot that I was trying to give you a palate cleanser because that was not it.
Well,
this episode honestly contained some of the scariest stories I've ever heard in my entire life.
Yeah.
And I didn't mean to do that. There was just like a week of y'all just sending me the most frightening things to have ever possibly happened.
What is going on?
I'm excited to see what else there is out there.
I know, because
in
some
the
people
email.
have said, like, I'm sending you the scariest story you'll ever read in your entire life, and we're already there.
I'd say we are. I say we've reached it this episode.
I feel like I know someone's watching this right now going, ha, cracking their knuckles and start typing an email. Yeah. I know it. They're going to be like, you haven't seen anything yet. I don't have anything else to say.
No, I don't know. I don't know what to say. I'm so glad that you're safe right now. I'm so glad that I'm just glad that you are safe and you have found safety, because that is
next level.
Yep. Beyond anything I've ever heard.
Thank you to everyone sending, and thank you to everyone listening. Sorry if you're listening at nighttime or if you're by yourself.
It is currently 10 p.m. where we are right now, and I am scared. I will be dreaming of that woman on the stairs.
I will not. I will be up until I have to be at work in the morning.
We appreciate everyone who's sending in their stories and everyone listening to their stories. Let us know in the comments what you think about some of these. I know that a lot of the people who send in our stories are in the comments still too. So if you have any opinions
or questions for them,
advice for some of these things, go ahead and leave a comment, because they're reading, we're reading. We'd like to know what everybody's opinions are too.
Follow us on the socials, Ghosties Pod. Go buy your merch, ghosties.com. I can't do this anymore. That's how I feel.
Like, comment, subscribe, do all the things, and we will see you next Monday.
Adios.